Hi, everyone. This is Rick Hansen for the Resilience Summit, and I'm here with Dr. Kristin Neff, who is an associate professor of educational psychology at the University of Texas at Austin. Kristin, if I can call you that, is a pioneer in the field of self-compassion research, and I believe she's the author of the very first study that was published on self-compassion beginning over a decade ago. In addition to writing numerous academic articles, which I can say, having read many of them, are marvels of clarity and often not so clear field. She's the author of the book Self-Compassion, The Proven Power of Being Kind to Yourself, released by William Morrow, and in conjunction with her colleague, Dr. Chris Germer, she has developed an empirically supported 8-week training program called Mindful Self-Compassion. I recommend that program highly. I've known a number of people who've gone through it and also a number of people who teach it. And it's really quite an extraordinary integration of mindfulness with a tremendous focus on compassion and self-compassion. It's really worth checking out. She offers workshops on self-compassion around the world for people in general and to train teachers. Her book, The Mindful Self-Compassion Workbook, A Proven Way to Accept Yourself, Build Inner Strength, and Thrive, and Teaching the Mindful Self-Compassion Program, A Guide for Professionals, will both be published by Guilford later in 2018, probably August 2018. And information about self-compassion, including videos, articles, meditations, and we'll be doing a guided practice with Kristin later here, as well as exercises, can be found at www.selfcompassion.org and in the supplemental materials for this program. So, Kristin, thank you very much for doing this. I've known you for a while. We've known each other, and I'm very grateful. I know how busy you are and what a full plate you have. And so I want to really thank you for doing this.
Oh, thank you, Rick. Thanks for having me. What you do is always brilliant, so I was honored to be invited.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm gonna mobilize self-compassion, go with the anticipatory self-criticism about that, which is probably related to some of our themes here. So for you, just to begin with, what got you interested in self-compassion?
Well, it was really a personal journey for me. I actually learned about self-compassion in my last year of graduate school at Berkeley. And basically, my life was a mess. I had gotten out of a divorce. It was very messy. I was feeling a lot of shame. I was under a lot of stress about would I graduate or not. Actually, I knew I'd graduate, but basically, would I get a job after spending all this time getting a PhD? So I thought I would learn how to meditate. I'd heard it was good for stress. And luckily, the meditation group I went to, the woman leading it talked a lot about self-compassion, about how in addition to having compassion for others, we should include ourselves in the circle of compassion, give ourselves support when we are going through a hard time. And so I gave it a try. And I was just amazed, like, this stuff works. Just by shifting that lens inward as opposed to just outward, and really trying to understand the difficulties I was going through, letting go of some of the judgment, really being supportive, being present with myself, it made a tremendous difference. And so then, later on, when I did get a real job as a professor at UT Austin, I decided I would try to research it, and then, the rest is history, so to speak.
History, literally, you will be in the history books.
Well, but nonetheless, it comes from my practice. I mean, the reason I'm so enthusiastic about self-compassion is not because of the p-value of any study I've done. It's because I know personally that it works.
Yeah. And p-value, by the way, it's not about going to the bathroom. It's a probability value. Exactly.
Thanks for clarifying.
That's great. Anyway. So I know you've done a lot of inner work and you're exposed to a lot of resources. And meanwhile, you're dealing with challenges. You have a full life, raising a family. And I'm wondering, as a question I ask everyone, what are you working on these days? What are you looking to grow internally? Our focus in this summit is about inner resources of various kinds. What's your growing edge? What are you trying to develop these days?
Well, I'll tell you, it's related to self-compassion, again, at a personal level and a professional level. And, I'll get into what self-compassion is, but typically when people think of self-compassion, they think of the side of it that's more comforting and soothing and calming and being kind to oneself. But there's both a yin and a yang to self-compassion. There's the yin is kind of the comforting and soothing, but the yang is like the action, it's the boundaries, it's no, that's causing harm, you can't continue, or it's motivating a change. It's like the fierce compassion side of self-compassion. And so that's really what I've been working on, developing it, not only my ideas, but also my personal life. I realized I had gotten very, very good at understanding and comforting and soothing myself, but there were some boundaries I didn't draw clearly enough, firmly enough. And it's kind of funny, I think women all over the world now are saying, we have to draw boundaries, we have to learn to say no, and I'm working on that myself too. So I'm really excited about this new direction for the self-compassion work.
That's fantastic.